Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be taking a look back at an absolute classic and possibly one of the most unhinged TV talk show appearances of all time. Like, if this happened today, people would lose their minds. They wouldn't know what to do. But this was back in 2009 when you could still kind of get away with something like this, even though this still got a ton of backlash and it was huge news. And it's probably the only thing anybody remembers from Joe Buck Live. I think this incident is more well known than the show it happened on because the show only lasted 3 episodes, even though this might have something to do with that. I don't know, but HBO definitely had their hands full with this. They didn't know what to do. Like, they just gave Joe Buck his own live talk show, and for the first episode, they decided to invite on Artie Lange as one of the guests, and they had on a bunch of other people as well. Like, in the beginning, Joe interviewed Brett Favre, and apparently is really boring. Everybody was tuning out. And then they brought in Artie Lange, Jason Sudeikis, and Paul Rudd, and then people started paying attention because it turned into complete chaos, and it went from being one of the least memorable shows to one of the most. But Joe Buck and HBO didn't know what they got themselves into. Even though it sounded like they wanted Artie to be edgy and exciting, you know, he was still on the Stern Show at the time, which if he said all this stuff that he said on Joe Buck's show on the Stern Show, it would have just been a normal day. So a lot of people's response was like, what did you guys really expect? Also, HBO is known for having more adult content, and it sounds like they wanted him to go a little crazy out there. And Joe Buck even admits that he told Artie to go out there and roast him, and he doesn't want him to hold back at all, which you could tell Joe instantly regretted. But I respect the fact that he basically takes full responsibility for it.
He came on the live HBO show, and he was exactly what I asked him to be. I mean, it was over the line.
And Lang being Howard Stern fan.
Yeah. But I went into him beforehand. I said, look, man, when you get out there, light me up. I can take it. It's fine. I want it to be fun. I want it to be. We talked afterward. I mean, he got pretty vulgar, and it was tough to sit there because I couldn't really jump back at him. I had to be the host, and so that was hard to just sit there and take it and not give back. But that's fine. That didn't make me upset or sad or mad or like want to go suck my thumb in the corner. That's what we asked for. And so HBO reacted like they were going to have him deported. And the frustrating thing for me was, you know, this wasn't like on PBS. He did what we expected. And he and I talked a couple days later, and he's like, look, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I got a little carried away. I got the first joke, the first laugh, and I'm a comic. That's what I do. Leading into show 2, we've got to have him back. You know, everywhere I go, people are yelling, Artie Lange and whatever. I said, I can't act like that didn't happen. So I'm not going to walk out on the stage, and they're like, under no circumstances are you going to even refer to Artie Lange. I said, well, you got the wrong guy, because I'm not going to walk out there and avoid that. I said, I'm either going to do the show and talk about Artie and have Artie on in some capacity, or I'm not going to do the show, because that's not me.
So I give him credit for standing by Artie and standing by what he said. You know, I'm sure most people would have been like, hey, I didn't tell him to do that. I just said go out there and have fun. I did not think he's going to take it that far. But he did take responsibility for it, and he convinced HBO to let Artie make an appearance on the second episode, which I guess is also the second to last episode. But Joe definitely handled the whole situation a lot better than I'd expect someone like him to. Even though obviously while it was happening, you could see him dying inside, because also this was a big event for him. You know, his first live show premiering on HBO, and his family's there, his kids are there to celebrate. But like I said, the first half of the show was pretty boring, even though it was running smoothly and there's no controversy yet. But I guess since it got off to a slow start and Joe told Artie to light him up out there, Artie felt like he had to carry the show. And unfortunately, around this time, Artie was also starting to spiral out of control once again, which he's always kind of spiraling. But around this time, he was in and out of rehab. He was missing a lot of time on the Stern Show. And in his book, he admitted a few hours before Joe Buck, he was doing lines of Vicodin and drinking. And then when he got on the show, he just started going off. He was not holding back. He didn't care who he offended. He didn't care what opportunities he lost. He was just saying whatever the hell he wanted. And at least he made it entertaining. You know, if he weren't there, this show would have sucked. I mean, right from the beginning, Joe asked Paul some stupid question about TMZ, and it's like he's setting Artie up here, but then once Artie starts going off, you can tell by the look on Joe's face, he knows it's not going to go well. But Paul Rudd and Jason Sudeikis, on the other hand, they could actually enjoy it since they weren't hosting it, and they thought it was hilarious. They were laughing the whole time. And I guess during a commercial break, Paul Rudd leaned over to Artie and he's like, dude, that was legendary, which probably got Artie going even more. And it just turns into a wild show. Like at one point, Paul Rudd almost drinks out of Artie's cigarette cup. And also Artie predicts that Joe Buck's show won't last 4 episodes.
I got on TMZ, my favorite website,
right,
and saw one of those ambush camera crews following you through some airport at some point in this country, and some point in your life, asking you ridiculous questions, poking the bear, just trying to make you make a mistake,
right,
and you didn't take the bait.
Well, I just wanted to get out of there as fast as I could.
But
They're
they
in LAX.
linger.
They hang out there, yeah. You know, it's tricky. You just you just have to be on your guard, I guess.
Here's a guy who's not on his guard.
No,
Artie
that's why
Lange.
he's much more entertaining on those.
There's
sites.
no guard there.
Joe, TMZ is your favorite website? I thought, what's your second? Suckingcock.com?
Give it up! Give it up! Yeah!
I'm on TMZ constantly. Did you see what Angelina was wearing today? How about going to a sports website, for Christ's sake?
Jason, would you like to follow that?
Nah.
Okay.
But as a Yankee fan and a Giant fan and a well-known homophobic,
Clearly.
I'm also a well-known homophobic. It's like a white trash gift from God that the Cowboys have a quarterback whose last name rhymes with homo. And he's dating a fat chick. Jessica Simpson started out looking like Jessica Simpson. Now she looks like Chris Farley from those Gap sketches. F the Cowboys.
Jason, when we talk about fame and we talk about being plucked out of
Good
nowhere.
segue.
Thanks. I'm telling
You're a
you,
regular Bob Costas.
You talk about scrambling for a segue. I just pulled a hamstring looking for some sort of segue.
I'll be pulling a hamstring later.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
I want to be working construction by next Thursday, so I hate show business.
You're on your way.
So are you.
You know the show's on HBO, right?
That's right. No one's watching.
What? Right. Thank you.
Because I loved your father, and I love you too. You're the best. He's great at what he does, Joe Buck.
Thank you. Indeed. Thank you. Indeed.
But Joe's father was a hero of mine. He used to do games for the Cardinals. He was an announcer, and he was one of the last real men's men. He wasn't politically correct. And you follow him now. Like, I'm on a Howard Stern show. Howard's not a man. Howard says what he can feel, and clearly so do I.
Is this going to take a while? 'Cause
Yeah.
This is,
yeah. Sorry to ruin your great show.
Yeah. I appreciate
quick.
the apology because you have.
I'll tell it quick. So Jack Buck is doing the 1990 National League Championship Series on CBS, and he wanted to talk about baseball. He was an old baseball guy. And CBS would make him do shitty promos for CBS movies of the week.
Right.
In the middle of a play. And he didn't know what it was and shit. Like, he didn't know what the movie was or the name of the actresses. But he was so brilliant at being a great announcer that he would use whatever the promo was to segue into the next play. So he would say stuff like, there's a fly ball of Bonds. He's there. He's got it. That's the way this one starts. And by the way, tonight on CBS, Meredith Baxter Bierney stars as a battered woman. Speaking of batters, here's Barry Larkin.
God, Paul, can I talk to you, please?
I liked your dad. I still remember hearing this story when some kids were asked, they want to get in the business. Do you have any advice that you could give us? And Jack's advice was, start smoking.
You know what? I'm going to take that right now.
You can't do that, sir. Sir, you cannot do that.
I'm not. I'm like Beretta.
Okay.
I'm going to kill my
In
wife.
jail? Good. Great.
I won't light it.
Okay. No, do you think I care about you smoking a cigarette after what you just laid out
Fuck it,
here?
let's do it, bro.
No, don't. Please.
Say what you mean, Joe. Shit,
right,
we got
I'm
an
sorry.
hour.
We will continue this with HBO Online, I think, unless they pull the plug on it. Seriously, I want to ask you about I've known you since we were 18.
Yeah.
You have not
Yeah.
changed one bit.
Well, thank you very much. Or you.
Really?
Well, let me look at you.
Thank you.
Is there a picture of us, I think?
I don't know. Do they have a picture of us?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
There it is. There we are.
Look at that.
There's Paul Rudd on the far left. Jason, if you were me, how would you rescue your career at this point?
Yeah, I'd let him smoke.
That is impressive. That is impressive. I think it's in chin number 4.
You need.
Here we go. Buckle in.
Number 4, the show you won't get to.
Right.
You're out of your league, Buck. Just do play-by-play.
I know. Believe me. It was right after this segment started that I realized that.
You were funny with Favre.
Why are you giggling at me? You suck.
I'm in the middle.
Do something.
I'm literally in the middle, and I feel like it's like heat and then cold, and it's combusted. It's to be in the midst of.
You're your own weather system
I was
right now.
telling Paul this
it's like a
backstage, and
yeah.
I don't know why I know this, but when 3 gay guys are having a threesome, the guy in the middle is called the Lucky Pierre.
And I said, well, I just thought of my new email name.
I'm running the camera, I guess. or you are, and he's the Lucky Pierre. It's
Exactly.
really-
Michael, can you see me melting up here right now?
Michael don't give a shit. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Jason.
Yes, sir.
We just did this live.
Yeah, that
You do your
happens.
show live, right? I mean, is that commonly
It's
asked?
called Saturday Night
I know
Live.
it is. I know it is. Jerk off. I know what it's called.
Jerk off.
Yeah. You're going to pull me into a dark place in about 1 more minute, and it's not going to be good.
Let's do it, brother. Let's make some news, man.
No, it's true.
Pull me into a dark place
If
and
I'm
blow
going to
me
do
again.
it, I'm going to do it with, an A-list guy.
Where are you going to find an A-list guy? You're going to hang out by Letterman? You ain't getting one on here, brother.
Woody, are you?
Want to do the Joe Buck show? No, I got to change my sock drawer.
Are you like getting a pap smear, or what do you got? Put your feet down, for God's sake.
Hey, listen, I'm trying to get comfortable. Somebody should look natural on the show.
What is going on?
It's turned into like a roast.
Hey,
Where's Jeffrey Ross?
Wait a minute, there's roast. Paul Rudd is an A-lister. He happened to be outside.
Thank you for saying that.
You are
It's not true at all.
an A-lister. This guy's in a lot of big movies, man.
But
Not me and Jason.
Well, no, but at least I've got a shot still.
I'll be making $80,000 a week at a theater this weekend, and you'll be making $11 an hour on SNL next fall.
Do you have to get all the way out of Howard's butt to go to the gig, or does he come with you?
Let me tell you something. You should go up Howard's butt. It's a good career move, brother.
All right.
And there's more room than in Lorne Michaels.
I recognize the name, but I don't know the face.
You talking about Joe?
I'll tell you something. I wouldn't mind being a Lucky Pierre between those titans of entertainment.
This is
inane
great,
conversation.
man.
This is awesome. I'm
Really?
so glad you were the last segment, so we can continue.
Dude, this
my
is the last
misery.
segment ever. So
I know.
get into it.
Yeah, please tell us your thoughts.
It's just refreshing to see white on white crime.
What is that?
He said it's refreshing to see white-on-white crime. That's good. That
You
should
should see
be our
my
last
bookie beat the
comment.
shit out of me.
That's our last comment of the night. Jason, Artie, Paul, that's it. Crowd, thank you. We're signing off on HBO.com. Not a moment too soon.
Yeah, so that was a pretty controversial appearance. You know, it's like a train wreck you just can't look away from. So a lot of people are talking about it. It turned into a big news story. A lot of people, you know, were disgusted by it. They thought he went too far. But then a lot of people thought it was hilarious and they loved it. But either way, you know, it got people's attention. It made that show so much more memorable. I mean, I'm talking about it almost 15 years later. So this show went down in history. But obviously HBO wasn't too happy about this. You know, they didn't know what to do. They should have just wrote it out, though. Instead, they issued an apology. They made a big deal about it. They said Artie was never welcome back, even though they had him back on in 2017 to do a show. But, you know, it's just stupid to act like they care about this. You know, like a lot of people are saying, you know what you're getting yourselves into. Like, this guy's an edgy comedian on the Howard Stern show. You should expect him to say some crazy stuff. So HBO should have been prepared and either not said anything or been like, you know, we don't agree with what he's saying, but at least it was an entertaining show. I mean, at least you people have something to talk about and complain about. You know, even if you hated it, at least you got some kind of reaction. Because if Artie wasn't on there, the highlight of the show would have been Joe Buck and Paul Rudd talking about how they went to high school together. So Artie saved that show, and I'm sure the audience there loved it. You know, they're probably falling asleep. And then they heard the first line he said, and they're like, all right, here we go. This is what I came to see. And now those people, instead of just saying, oh, yeah, I got to see the first episode of Joe Buck Live, they could say they're there when Artie Lange went nuts on Joe Buck. But of course, after this appearance, Artie had to spend a lot of time defending himself. So here's him talking about it right afterwards on the Stern Show. And Howard's stylist calls in to argue with him. And also Artie says that Jimmy Kimmel texted him and told him his appearance was epic, which is hilarious coming from him, because if this happened more recently and Jimmy Kimmel heard about it, he'd probably break down crying.
I don't have any interest in his world. That's a quote from Mr. Greenberg. Lange appeared with actor Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd didn't get a word in.
They both loved it. You watch it, the crowd is guffawing. Like, Michael Irvin is laughing. I have to defend myself. Like, Jimmy Kimmel texted me yesterday. He said, dude, that appearance was epic. They should have you back on every night. Ross Greenberg he sounds like a moron. And he knows what I do. He read my book. He saw my stand-up. Can someone explain to him why I wouldn't do what I did on Letterman? It's CBS. It's Letterman. And quite frankly, I have a lot more respect comedically for David Letterman than I do Joe Buck. Howard, they almost started chanting my name.
I have to say I would concur with Artie on his self-review. It was 40 minutes of boredom, and the 10 minutes that Artie came on, it just set the place on fire. I think it woke some people up. Why they had Joe Buck hosting that show, I'll never know.
Plus,
But why won't Joe Buck say to USA Today, Artie helped my show?
Well, because first of all, I think Joe fancies himself a comedian. I'm sure he's pissed off, and I'm sorry.
Right.
But, I mean, listen, it is live. Jason Sudeikis said, I can't follow this. They were sitting there. They were starting to talk about Jason and Paul going to high school together, and I pretended to fall asleep because everyone else was.
Howard, without Artie, I think no one would be talking about the Joe Buck show this morning.
Exactly.
Zero response.
Oh, Ralph, you saw this?
I saw this.
How was it?
Artie, I don't know. I just thought it was bad. I don't know.
Why did you think it was bad?
I just thought it was just kind of boorish, like crude, and
It's HBO, Ralph. They said, go nuts. It's HBO. Ross Greenberg came up to me before. He said, Art, it's HBO. Yeah. Okay, you know what? I'm going to throw someone on the bus now, too. Okay, you ready?
Go ahead.
Ross Greenberg said, Paul and Jason get boring. You go nuts. To me, he goes, it's HBO. You do whatever if you want.
But that's them winding you up, and
and they wound me up, Ralph.
Yeah. It didn't seem like you. It just seemed like you were just loud and obnoxious.
Yeah, well, this seems like you being an obnoxious wrong prick. You listen to the laughs. See if there's collective groans.
You know what? Joe Buck is boring. The show.
He did him a favor.
He thinks he's funny, but I don't know. It's just like Artie. I just thought it was just. And maybe it's great because people are talking about it. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
Maybe you're wrong, Ralph.
The audience is going hysterical. It's like they're at a Richard Pryor.
My friend was in the audience. He was like, it was like that uncomfortable.
Well, your friend's a jerk off like you, Ralph.
I got a question for Ralph. Aren't you the same guy that loves Celebrity Apprentice because everybody makes everybody feel uncomfortable? So I don't.
Yeah, so Fred was really doing a good job defending Artie, and Howard, he was supporting Artie, but I'm pretty sure he was kind of freaked out by it because he was becoming more PC and he was trying to fit in more with the Hollywood crowd. And Artie ended up leaving the show only like 6 months after this. And I think at this point, Howard was starting to realize that Artie had some problems. You know, it took him a while to figure it out, but at this point, I think Howard started to realize that. So a lot of people are giving their takes on the situation, and obviously a lot of celebrities and people on talk shows were like, oh, that's too far. I can't believe he said that stuff. That's disgusting. But somehow The View, they actually had a decent take on all this. It's crazy.
Lange, because you know he's on Howard Stern's show. Yeah. When you put Artie Lange on, you know what you're getting when you got Artie Lange. And Artie Lange also said that HBO told him to go crazy. Right. So, I mean, to book Artie Lange and expect that he's not going to be that way.
So what's their beef? Do you know?
Well, they apologized. Actually, the head of it apologized for him.
HBO apologized because I think they felt that how you can go over the top on HBO is astounding to me.
Really? Yeah.
But, you know, because, I mean, wasn't it Tony Soprano that had the girl from behind and girls with Sex in the City? So Artie Lange was just
that was One Life to Live, I think.
Whoopi makes an excellent point. How is it on HBO you could be over the line is beyond me,
and
too.
Who are they apologizing to?
I don't know. I mean, it's true. They show hardcore sex, cat house.
True Blood, and, you know, people are, you know, all over the place. They're having sex and biting each other and drinking their blood.
Yeah, and what HBO thinks is okay and what people get offended by is so arbitrary. Like, HBO will give a show to that guy, Dennis Hoff, but then Artie Lange says some offensive stuff, and it's the end of the world. Even though everything he said on Joe Buck, he had been saying on the Stern Show for years prior. So if HBO was so offended by this and they thought he was out of line, I don't know why they'd have him on in the first place. And I guarantee if he said all that stuff during a stand-up special for HBO, or if he was doing a show with other comedians on HBO where it wasn't as awkward, HBO wouldn't have cared. They would have been fine with that. So they botched this whole situation, but somehow, like I said, Joe Buck handled this like a professional. I give him credit. And him and Artie are cool now. He's done Artie's podcast a few times, and they talked about it.
It is. Our lives are linked together forever.
Right. That's great. I feel good about it.
I go back over that night, and I got to say, I do think, and you're very nice to me, saying that I didn't do anything that wrong, but I did in the sense that I went overboard. I went too far. It was HBO, and I thought I could be rated X, really, and that was the wrong call. But, you know,
but as I've said to you 1,000 times, it's HBO at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever thing. And the next show is like G-String Divas or Cat House 9.
Real sex or something.
Cornucopia 4. I mean, so you said bad words. You lit me up. I specifically went into the dressing room before, and I said, hey, when you come out there, light me up, have fun. That was my aim for that show, is to be edgy. And, you know, I really hoped when that thing was over, their response was going to be, hey, tune in next time. Who knows what you're going to see?
Yeah, exactly.
And I basically had to threaten to quit to get that little thing we shot in Times Square to lead off the second show, which...
Wait, well, let me set this up. I called him up and left him a voicemail. Here it is. What is it?
He goes, hey, man, I'm sorry. I'm a comedian, man, and I got the first laugh, and I went a little overboard. And I never want to be in the way of somebody making a living, so anything I can do, I'm there for you, man. I'm sorry.
That's really good.
And so I was like, I know what you can do. Come on the second show.
Yeah. So we shot the beginning of the second show, but it really, look, live television, and everybody I've talked to, everybody in comedy, Dennis Miller came on this show and said, that's what it's about. Like, awkward television is fantastic.
Yeah, everything else is boring.
Right.
It sucks. I don't want to do it.
And quite frankly, that night, listen, it is so difficult to make a boring guest exciting. And I know you're a good man and you're probably never saying this, so I'll say it. But Brett Favre, to me, left you hanging. I think Brett Favre, Jason, I didn't know at the time. He's become a huge star now. I didn't know who he was at the time.
Right.
But,
and they were sitting there like somebody cut their tongues out.
Listen, you're being a nice guy, but
whatever.
I went too far.
Fine. What? I don't care.
Joe, your family was there. The first joke I made had the word "seasucker."
Right. So I had a lot of questions. I told you, I made the joke to somebody. I said, I preemptively washed my kids' mouths out with soap just because of what they heard and what could potentially come out of their mouths someday.
Well, I'm glad.
My daughter at that time my youngest was 8. She's like, What was he talking about?
God.
Yeah, that was nice.
No, but listen. I'm glad that you're nice about it. You say, and again, Ross Greenberg, really nice guy, and I'm such a fan of his work. And I feel bad because I probably
but the reaction was ridiculous.
Yeah,
ridiculous. They wanted you deported. They wanted you. It's like, come
sometimes
on.
You know this better than anybody because you know you have a sense of humor. Sports people, I find, take themselves really seriously, man.
It's so annoying, and that was the next show. It was 3 months later. I'm going into every venue, every stadium, and every time I'm walking in, some guy, Artie Lange!
What a nightmare!
Like, that's how I go into the game at Philly. Artie Lange!
It's Philly.
And speaking of sports people taking themselves too seriously, Bob Costas, who Joe actually, his show is taking over for Bob's on HBO. That's who he's replacing. But Bob gave his opinion on this, and of course, he was disgusted by it.
Artie Lange is not my cup of tea. I would not have invited him on if I did 100 shows. I would not have invited him on. I thought it was very unfortunate for Joe because Artie stupidly ruined Joe's first show, and it sent the show into kind of a spiral, a downward spiral. So A, I wouldn't have had him on, but B, if I did, and he started to act that way, I would have thrown him off the show. We're not here for this. Take a hike.
Yeah, so it's too bad Artie didn't do all that on his show. It sounded like that would have been even better. I'm sure he would have had a meltdown. So that's about it for the whole saga between Artie and Joe Buck. Make sure you guys let me know what you think about it all down in the comments. And then make sure you go check out my Patreon account. I have a bunch of videos up there I post every week. I have a video about High Pitch Eric. I have a video about Sal Governale, his apology tape. That's a classic. And I have a bunch of videos about Joe Rogan Experience episodes that were really cringy, and just a lot of other stuff, probably over 30 videos at this point, a lot of content to go through. So if you want to support the channel and get extra content, make sure you go check it out. A link will be in the description, and then hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.